April 12, 1942. Malta. The island shakes again. Sirens scream. The ground itself seems to tremble. Inside a cave cut into limestone, Sergeant Tom Green opens his eyes. Dust falls from the ceiling. The air smells of oil and sweat and fear. He reaches for his flight jacket. It's still damp from yesterday's raid. Someone yells, "They're coming again," and the whole shelter comes alive, boots hitting stone, engines coughing awake outside. Tom runs toward the light. Outside, the sky already burns. Black dots, dozens of them, cross the sun. Bombers. Ju-88s. Behind them, the silver flashes of German fighters. He squints, and for a moment it looks like the end of the world. But he doesn't freeze. He runs faster. The metal of the Spitfire's fuselage burns his hands. He climbs in, still half asleep, half terrified. The ground crew waves him off. No orders yet. No clearance. He pushes the throttle anyway. The engine roars to life. And in that instant, the war, his war, truly begins. He doesn't know it yet, but this morning will change the defense of Malta forever. 3 months earlier. Tom wasn't supposed to be here. He was a mechanic in Kent, good with engines, bad with officers. When the posting came through, Malta, RAF detachment, he thought it was a joke. Who wanted to be sent to a rock in the middle of the Mediterranean, surrounded by the enemy? But that rock became the most bombed place on earth. More raids than London. More explosions than the front in Africa. Every morning, the same sound, the low hum of enemy engines. Every night, the same sight, the orange glow over Valletta, the capital. Malta was starving. Fuel was rationed. Ammunition, counted by the bullet. The pilots lived underground like moles. They slept beside their aircraft, ate cold tins of beans, and flew until the sky swallowed them. Tom was 24. He had blue eyes, cracked lips, and hands that never stopped trembling, except when they gripped the control stick. He didn't see himself as a hero. He just didn't like losing. The unfairness. That's what broke him first. He watched friends die, not in the air, but on the ground. They were waiting for permission to take off. By the time the radio gave the order, the runway was already burning. By the book, the officers said. Discipline first, they said. Tom wanted to scream. Discipline didn't stop bombs. Action did. So he started thinking. What if the planes were already in the sky? What if they patrolled in pairs, switching every 20 minutes, always ready? He called it the rolling watch. Simple. Obvious. But when he brought it up to Flight Lieutenant Harris, the man laughed. "Do you know how much fuel that burns, Sergeant?" he said. "We're not the bloody Royal Navy." The idea died in the briefing room. Or so they thought. Nights on Malta were strange. Too quiet. Too close. The men slept in the caves under Lucca airfield. The ceiling dripped with moisture. Rats ran across their boots. Outside, the wind carried the smell of the sea, and sometimes, the faint echo of engines over Sicily. Tom wrote in a small notebook. He wasn't much of a writer, but he needed to keep sane. He drew little sketches of clouds and wrote lines like, "We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us." He didn't know where that came from. It just felt true. Because the island seemed alive. Every time a bomb fell, the rock itself took the hit for them. Every time the sirens wailed, the cliffs seemed to roar back. Then came March. A month of hell. More than 500 raids. Sometimes they had only 3 Spitfires serviceable. 3 planes against hundreds. Tom flew 5, 6 sorties a day. He stopped counting kills. He stopped counting days. One evening, after landing, he saw smoke rising from Valletta. The cathedral was on fire. He sat on the wing and just watched, unable to move. A mechanic walked up, offered him a cigarette. Tom shook his head. "Doesn't help," he said. The mechanic nodded. "Then what does?" Tom didn't answer. April 11, 1942. The base received word, another massive raid expected tomorrow. The officers called a meeting. "We'll wait for confirmation from radar," Harris said. "Then scramble the fighters." Tom stood in the back, fists clenched. He'd heard it all before. He'd seen what, waiting for confirmation, looked like, craters and smoke. That night, he made a decision. He would not wait. At dawn, he was already in the cockpit. The sky was pale pink over the Mediterranean. He told the ground crew he was testing the engine. They nodded, pretending to believe him. The Spitfire's propeller blurred into a silver disk. He taxied to the end of the strip, checked the instruments, oil pressure good, temperature steady. "Control, this is Blue 3, testing takeoff procedure," he said into the radio. Static. No reply. He smiled. "Perfect. Throttle forward." The wheels left the ground. And just like that, he was alone above Malta. From 3,000 feet, he saw everything, the honey-colored stone of Valletta, the deep blue of the sea, the thin white trails of smoke rising from burned buildings. He banked left, heading toward the north. That's when he saw them. Tiny dots over the horizon. Growing larger. 50, 60 bombers. His heart skipped. They were early. He pressed the transmit button. "Control, this is Blue 3, enemy formation inbound, repeat, inbound." Nothing. Radio jammed. He swallowed hard. Then muttered to himself, "All right, then. We'll do this the hard way." He dove. The Spitfire screamed as it fell. The wind roared in his ears. He aimed for the lead bomber, a Ju-88 with black crosses on its wings. He squeezed the trigger. Tracers stitched across the sky. The bomber's right engine exploded. Smoke trailed behind it as it spiraled down. He pulled up, barely missing another. A Messerschmitt came at him head-on. He saw the flash of its guns, the sparks on his canopy. "Not today," Tom whispered. He rolled, turned inside the enemy's loop, and fired again. The German plane burst into flames. For a moment, everything went silent. Just the sound of his breathing. Then, another wave. More bombers. He radioed again, desperate. "Looka. Scramble the rest. They're here." This time, a faint voice answered. "Blue 3, hold position. Reinforcements inbound." Too late. The sky filled with black bursts of flak and silver streaks of sunlight. The sky above Malta is no longer blue. It's gray, torn by smoke and fire. Bombs fall like heavy raindrops, slow and merciless. Tom Green flies through the chaos. His hands are shaking, but his eyes are steady. He dives, fires, climbs again. Every second counts. Every bullet matters. Below him, Valletta burns again. The harbor is a boiling cauldron of flame and debris. Oil burns on the surface of the water, black smoke curling toward heaven. A voice crackles in his ear. "Blue 3, this is Tower, do you copy?" "I copy," Tom shouts over the roar. 2 more squadrons inbound from Sicily. "Hold as long as you can. Hold as long as you can." He laughs, short, bitter. That's what they always say. He turns toward the sun. The glare blinds him for a second, but he can see the shapes, Ju-88s again, a tight formation, perfect German precision. He climbs above them, then cuts throttle. The Spitfire trembles, stalling for a heartbeat before gravity grabs it. He drops like a stone, straight into their path. He squeezes the trigger. The guns chatter. Brass shells fly across the cockpit floor. One bomber breaks formation, smoke pouring from its wing. Tom pulls up too late. The blast from its explosion rocks his plane. The canopy cracks. Hot air and dust rush in. He gasps, steadies the controls, and checks his instruments. Fuel, low. Ammunition, almost gone. Blue 3 to tower, he says. I'm bingo fuel. Returning to base. No answer. The radio is dead again. He turns toward the island. From up here, Malta looks so small. A speck of yellow stone in an endless blue sea. How can something so small hold back the entire axis? He lands hard, too hard. The wheels bounce, but he keeps it straight. The ground crew runs toward him, waving frantically. Where's the rest of them? One shouts. Tom climbs out. They're coming. A lot of them. How many? He wipes the sweat from his eyes. All of them. Inside the cave hangar, the air is thick with exhaust and shouting. Pilots grab helmets, mechanics refuel planes still hot from landing. No one waits for orders anymore. Harris storms in, red-faced. Who the hell authorized that takeoff? Tom doesn't answer. He's wiping oil off his hands. I'm talking to you, Sergeant. Harris yells. Tom finally looks up. If I hadn't gone up, sir, you'd be shouting in a crater. The room falls silent. Even Harris doesn't reply. He just stares for a moment, then leaves. A mechanic named Riley chuckles. You just killed your career. Tom shrugs. I'll trade it for the island. That night, the men eat in silence. Canned beans again. The candles flicker against the limestone walls. Someone hums an old song, something from home. No one joins in. Tom opens his notebook again. He writes, "We are the line." The last one. Outside, thunder rolls, but it isn't thunder. It's another raid. They run to their planes. Engines roar. Dust and sand fill the air. Blue section, ready. Tom yells. Copy that, Riley shouts back, climbing into his own Spitfire. The night sky is full of searchlights, crisscrossing like blades. Bombers glow in the beams, massive, slow, unstoppable. Tom dives at them again. The tracers light up the dark like fireworks. He hits one, then another. He doesn't even count anymore. Riley's voice on the radio, I'm hit. Going down. Bail out. Tom screams. No reply. He sees the flash below, the brief, bright bloom of an explosion on the sea. Then nothing. God damn it, Tom whispers. His throat feels dry as dust. He stays up until his fuel runs out, then glides home in silence. Days blur together. Raids, repairs, exhaustion. The sun bakes the stone runways. The men's faces are burned red, their uniforms stiff with salt and sweat. Food runs out. Water too. They start rationing bread, one slice a day. Sometimes they find oranges from the ruined markets. They taste like gold. Tom's hands never stop trembling now. The vibration of the engine stays in his bones even when he's on the ground. He dreams of falling, always falling, and waking just before impact. Then, one morning, he wakes to quiet. No sirens. No engines. He steps outside. The sky is clear. The sea, calm. For the first time in months, the island breathes. He walks to the cliff edge overlooking the harbor. The ruins still smoke, but the air smells of salt again, not gunpowder. He closes his eyes. Maybe it's over. Maybe the enemy ran out of bombs. Then the first distant hum begins again. Low. Steady. Familiar. He smiles bitterly. Of course. The sirens start. April 12, 1942, the day of days. The biggest raid yet. Over 100 aircraft inbound from Sicily. Tom doesn't wait for orders this time. He runs to his plane, shouting, "Start her up." The mechanic hesitates. They said to wait for confirmation. Tom grabs his collar. "You want confirmation? Look up." The man looks, and sees them. Dark shapes blotting out the morning sun. Engines scream to life. The propeller spins, kicking dust into his face. "Blue section, ready." "Roger that," someone replies. They take off in pairs, barely missing each other's wings. The Spitfires climb hard, curving into the rising sun. Tom breathes through his teeth. Everything below becomes small, distant. The horizon fills with German bombers, an endless wall of wings. He tightens his grip on the stick. "This is it," he mutters. "For Riley. For everyone." He dives. Machine guns thunder. Shells tear through the air. A bomber explodes, pieces spinning into the sea. Another bursts into flames. But then his cockpit shatters. Glass cuts his cheek. The world tilts. He jerks the control column back. The plane shudders, groaning like a wounded animal. Smoke fills the cabin. He can't see. He can't breathe. "Hold it, Tom," he mutters. "Hold it together." He manages to level out. The runway glimmers below, so close, yet miles away. He limps toward it. The engine coughs, sputters, then dies. The propeller freezes mid-spin. He glides, silent. The ground rises fast. Impact. A deafening crack. The Spitfire slides across the field, wings torn, dust exploding around it. Then, stillness. Hands pull him from the wreck. Voices shout, blurred, distant. He sees sunlight flashing off helmets, feels the sting of air on his burned skin. "You're alive, Tom. You bloody made it," someone yells. He tries to speak, but only blood comes out. He passes out before they lift him. When he wakes, it's dark again. The cave ceiling above him. Bandages on his shoulder, his head. Someone sits nearby, it's Harris. "You did well," Harris says quietly. "Your idea worked. We kept the airfield." Tom blinks. "Our idea?" Harris hesitates. "The High Command, they're calling it the Harris rotation. It'll be standard procedure now." Tom stares at him. For a long moment, he says nothing. Then, "Good. Whatever keeps them alive." Harris nods awkwardly, stands, and leaves. Tom closes his eyes. He feels the island breathe again. The rock under him, solid and warm. He whispers, barely audible. "We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us." He spends the next 3 weeks in the hospital cave. The air is thick with the smell of medicine, oil, and limestone dust. Sometimes, the ceiling trembles from distant blasts. But fewer now. The raids are slowing. Tom lies on a cot, his arm in a sling. His flight jacket, burned and torn, hangs from a hook beside him. He stares at it for hours. A nurse named Anna checks his bandages every morning. She never speaks much, but one day she says quietly, "You're lucky. They said your plane hit the ground at over 100 miles an hour." Tom smirks. "Then I should have bounced higher." She almost smiles, then shakes her head. "You lot are mad." "Maybe," he says. But it worked. Outside, Malta starts to heal. The sky is still dangerous, but not every day. Supply convoys make it through now, barely. Crates of food, fuel, and cigarettes. When Tom can walk again, he goes out to the airfield. The ground is cratered, but planes still line the strip, patched up Spitfires, Hurricanes, even a few wrecks turned into spare part donors. He runs his hand along the fuselage of one. The metal is rough, dented, full of bullet holes. He whispers, "You did well, girl." Then he notices the paint on the side, freshly stenciled letters. Harris Rotation Patrol. He laughs once, low. Not out of anger, just disbelief. He turns away. A few days later, Harris visits again. He's in full uniform this time, polished boots, fresh insignia. "The squadron's getting a citation," Harris says. Command's impressed. "They're calling you all the Angels of Malta." Tom raises an eyebrow. "Angels, huh? Feels more like devils with wings." Harris hesitates, then clears his throat. "You'll be on the next hospital ship back to England. Orders from above." Tom frowns. "I can still fly." "You can barely walk," Harris says flatly. Silence stretches between them. Finally Tom says, "You know it wasn't your idea." Harris looks away. "Does it matter? The tactic works. The island stands. That's what counts." Tom studies him for a long moment, then nods. "Yeah. That's what counts." But inside, something cracks. On the morning he leaves, the island is quiet again. No sirens. Just gulls circling above the cliffs. The hospital ship St. Clement waits in the harbor. White paint, red crosses on her sides. Tom stands on the pier with his duffel bag. Anna helps him climb the gangway. "Will you come back?" she asks. He shrugs. "If the war lets me." She looks at him, something like respect, or pity, in her eyes. Then she turns away. As the ship pulls out, Tom watches Malta shrink behind them. The bastions of Valletta glow gold in the sunrise. The island looks peaceful, almost holy. He whispers again, half to himself. "We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us." The words taste final. England, 6 months later. The war has moved north now, France, the Channel, the Atlantic. Malta is a memory. Tom works as an instructor at a training base near Lincolnshire. Flat fields, endless drizzle, polite recruits who've never seen combat. He shows them how to check gauges, how to read clouds, how to stay calm when the plane shakes like a dying animal. They listen, but they don't understand. Not really. At night, he dreams of the island. The echo of bombs, the heat of the cockpit, the scent of burning fuel. He wakes up sweating. Always the same dream, falling. One evening, a young trainee asks him, "Sir, were you really in Malta?" Tom nods. "They say it was hell." He looks out at the sunset. It was. But it was also home. The trainee hesitates. "And, the stories? About the rotation patrols?" Tom smiles faintly. "Yeah. We flew them. It worked. Kept the island alive." The boy grins. "That was Harris's idea, right?" Tom doesn't answer. He just pats the kid on the shoulder. "Get some rest. Big day tomorrow." The boy salutes and walks away. Tom watches him go. Then whispers to the empty field, "It was never about credit." Time moves differently in peace. Days stretch, lose their sharp edges. By 1945, the war is over. Tom is 30 now, with gray at his temples. He leaves the RAF quietly, no medals, no ceremony. He takes a job at a civilian airfield, safety instructor, nothing glamorous. He teaches new pilots how to handle stress, how to react when systems fail. He never talks about Malta. Not once. But sometimes, when the engines start up and the hangar fills with the familiar smell of fuel and dust, he closes his eyes. And for a moment, he's back there. The sirens, the heat, the roar of the Spitfire. And the island. Always the island. 1962. A reporter from the Daily Chronicle tracks him down. She's writing an anniversary piece, 20 years since the siege of Malta. Tom meets her in a cafe near the airfield. She's young, eager, full of questions. Is it true, she asks, that your patrol plan changed the course of the siege? He stirs his tea. Depends who you ask. But you were the first to fly without orders, right? The unauthorized sortie. He looks up, surprised she even knows that term. I flew when it mattered. That's all. She smiles. You're very modest. He chuckles. No. Just tired. The article comes out a week later. It's a good piece, fair, simple, honest. It calls him the man who broke the rulebook. But Tom doesn't read it to the end. He folds the paper, puts it away. He doesn't need to relive it anymore. Years pass. The world changes. Jets replace propellers. Radios work properly now. But in museums, the Spitfires still shine under glass, their wings like memories frozen in time. At the RAF Museum in Duxford, there's one display called The Siege of Malta. Photos of bombed cities, old uniforms, a dented pilot's helmet. On the wall, a quote in bold letters. We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us. Sergeant Tom Green, 1942. Visitors stop and read it. Some nod. Some take photos. But few know who he really was. Tom never visits the museum. He doesn't need to. He carries it inside him. 1970. He's an old man now, gray-haired, soft-spoken. Still lives near the coast, near the airfields where engines still roar. A young journalist finds him again, asks for one last interview. This time, Tom agrees. They sit in his garden, the sea wind rattling the windows. Do you ever miss it? The journalist asks. The war. Tom laughs quietly. No one misses war. But I miss the sky. He looks up, eyes narrow against the light. It was pure up there. No lies. Just air and fire and instinct. Down here, everything's noise. The journalist nods. They say Malta survived because of pilots like you. Tom shakes his head. No. Malta survived because she refused to fall. We were just her hands. He pauses. Then adds softly. Sometimes I think the island had a soul. You could feel it when you flew over her. She wanted to live. The journalist asks one last question. What would you tell the new pilots today? Tom smiles, faint but clear. I'd tell them this: don't wait for permission to do the right thing. He leans back, eyes on the sea. The horizon glows gold, just like it did over Valletta all those years ago. For a moment, he can almost hear the sirens again. The roar of the Spitfire. The heartbeat of the island. And he whispers one last time, his voice almost lost in the wind. We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us. September 1967. 25 years after the siege. The sky above the Mediterranean is as blue as he remembers. The sea below, endless, calm, glittering under the sun. Tom Green sits by the window of a passenger plane, watching the white outline of Malta appear on the horizon. It looks small, almost fragile. But he knows better. He hasn't been here since the war. Not once. His hands rest on a worn leather bag, inside, his old flight logbook, a few photographs, and the same notebook he kept in the caves under Lucca. The pages are yellow now, the ink faded. But the words still whisper back at him. We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us. He smiles faintly. He doesn't remember writing that line. But everyone else seems to. When the plane lands, the air hits him like a memory, hot, dry, filled with dust and salt. He steps out slowly, squinting against the light. Lucca airfield is different now. New hangars, paved runways, civilian jets instead of Spitfires. But the smell, the mix of oil and limestone, hasn't changed at all. A young customs officer stamps his passport. First time in Malta, he asks politely. Tom hesitates. No, he says. Not quite. The man glances up, curious, but Tom just nods and walks on. Outside the terminal, a taxi driver waves him over. Where to, sir? Tom pulls out an old photograph, 3 young men standing beside a Spitfire, grinning like fools. The caption reads, Lucca, 1942. He points to the background, the cliff, the stone buildings. Can you take me here? The driver squints. Ah. Ta, Cayley Airfield. Not far. We go. As they drive, the island passes by in flashes of color, white walls, blue doors, narrow roads winding between fields of golden rock. Kids wave at the taxi. Tom waves back. The driver talks the whole way. You English? Many English come here now. Holidays, sun, beaches. Tom nods, half listening. He thinks of the same roads, 25 years earlier, filled not with tourists but soldiers and smoke. They crest a hill, and suddenly the view opens up. The airfield. The same flat expanse where he once took off into hell. The taxi stops near an old hangar, its roof half collapsed. Tom pays the driver and steps out slowly. The ground crunches under his boots, dry gravel, bits of rusted metal. Weeds grow through cracks in the concrete. He walks toward the hangar. Inside, the air is cool and dusty. Birds nest in the rafters. And there, half buried under a tarp, he sees it. A Spitfire. Or what's left of one. No engine. No propeller. Just the fuselage, sun-bleached, the roundel still faintly visible. He runs his hand over the metal. It feels warm under his palm. Hello, old girl, he whispers. Still here, eh? He closes his eyes. For a moment, the years fall away. He can hear the sirens again, smell the fuel, feel the vibration of the controls. Riley's laugh. Harris's voice. The endless sky. He opens his eyes again and sees only the wreck. But it's enough. A sound behind him. Footsteps. He turns. A woman stands in the doorway, mid-30s, dark hair, sharp eyes. She's holding a camera. I'm sorry, she says quickly. I didn't mean to interrupt. Are you? He waves it off. Just visiting an old friend. She steps closer, curious. You flew these? He nods. During the war. Yes. 1942, Lucca Squadron. Her expression changes, respect, surprise. My grandfather was a ground mechanic here. He used to talk about the pilots. Said they were half insane. Tom chuckles. He wasn't wrong. She smiles, lowers her camera. I'm part of the Heritage Project. We're cataloging what's left of the old bases. You picked the right time to visit. He glances around. Not much left to catalog. Maybe not, she says. But stories survive better than buildings. They walk together toward the edge of the airfield. From there, you can see the sea. She asks about his service, how long, how it felt. He answers simply, without drama. Mostly, it felt like waiting. Waiting for the next raid, the next siren, the next friend not to come back. She's silent for a while. Then she says, I read about you once. Sergeant Green, right? The one who started the rotation patrols. He raises an eyebrow. That old myth still going around? It's in our archives, she says. They say your idea saved the island. He shakes his head. The island saved itself. We were just along for the ride. As the sun dips lower, they drive toward Valletta. The city glows gold again, just like it did in his memories, but now it's alive, full of people and light. They stop near the Upper Baraka Gardens, where a small monument overlooks the harbor. It's simple, a bronze Spitfire, wings stretched wide, facing the sea. Below it, a plaque. To the pilots and crews who defended Malta, 1940 to 1943. Tom stands in silence for a long time. The woman watches him but doesn't speak. He reads the names engraved below. Not his. Not Riley's. But he recognizes a few: Harris, McLeod, Sutton. He traces the letters with his finger. I thought I'd forgotten them, he says softly. Turns out they just waited. They sit on a bench overlooking the Grand Harbor. Below, ships move slowly between the piers. The woman asks, did you ever think of writing it all down? Tom taps his bag. I already did. Will you ever publish it? He smiles faintly. No. Some stories work better when they stay in the air. She nods, thoughtful. Then she lifts her camera. Can I take your picture? He hesitates, then nods. She takes one photo, him sitting there, the sea behind him, the setting sun turning everything to gold. Perfect, she says. He laughs. I doubt that. Later, back at his small hotel, he can't sleep. The walls are too quiet. He opens the window. The air smells the same as it did in 1942, salt, dust, and faintly of smoke from someone's chimney. He takes out his old notebook and flips to the last page. Blank. He picks up a pen and writes slowly, carefully. Return today. The island is still alive. Maybe she always was. Maybe she kept us alive because she needed witnesses. He pauses, then adds one more line. I used to think I fought for her. Now I know I was only one of her stories. He closes the notebook. The next morning, he walks to the cliffs above Dingley, where the land drops straight into the sea. The wind is strong, warm, full of voices if you listen long enough. He sits on a rock, closes his eyes. And for a moment, it's all back, the roar of engines, the smell of fuel, the pulse of the island under his feet. He whispers, Riley. Harris. All of you. We did it. He opens his eyes again. Below, waves crash against the cliffs, white foam exploding upward. It feels like applause. Before he leaves, he visits one last place, the War Museum in Valletta. Inside, glass cases full of uniforms, medals, fragments of bombs. On the far wall, he sees it, a photograph of him and Riley beside their Spitfire, both grinning, smoke still rising behind them. He laughs softly. We looked like kids. Beside the photo, a quote in neat print. We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us. Sergeant Tom Green, 1942. He stares at it for a long time. A museum guide walks by and stops. That's you, isn't it? Tom nods slowly. Used to be. The guide smiles. We still tell your story on the tours. People love it. Tom looks around, the children pointing at the planes, the tourists reading plaques. He feels something heavy lift off his chest. Good, he says. Keep telling it. That's all that matters. That evening, he sits at the harbor cafe, watching the sun set behind the bastions. A small boy at the next table plays with a model airplane, running it along the table edge, making engine noises. Tom leans over. What kind of plane is that? The boy looks up proudly. A Spitfire. Tom grins. Good choice. Did you fly one? The boy asks. For a while, Tom says. Long time ago. Were you scared? Tom thinks about it. Every single time, he says. That's how you know you're alive. The boy nods solemnly, as if understanding something important. Then he goes back to flying his toy, making the sound of guns, daka daka daka. Tom laughs. When the stars come out, he stands and looks up. The same constellations he used to navigate by. The same sky that once burned with fire. He whispers, still watching, aren't you? The sea answers with its quiet rhythm. He turns to leave, one last glance at the island, the stone, the light, the memory that never fades. And as he walks away, the narrator's voice, his own, older and steadier now, seems to echo through the night. One man can't win a war. But sometimes, he can hold the line long enough for hope to catch up. Malta stood because she refused to fall. And in her shadow, we learned something simple. Courage isn't noise. It's silence that doesn't break. He stops, takes a breath, and says one last time, to the island, to the ghosts, to the sky itself. We don't defend Malta. Malta defends us. The waves crash below, and the screen fades to black.